Well, here we are. I said I would tie up one so you can see what it looks like. This is a special little fly that I came up with up on the Owyhee River. There was a hatch going on, fish slurping all over the place. Just about enough to drive a sane man crazy trying to figure out what it was because you never saw anything on the surface. But in paying real close attention and just watching for a while, I finally came up with this pattern. It's a simple fly pattern. First off, mustad size 16 dry fly hooks is what I used for it. Made it real simple. You're going to want some uni yarn. It's this gray. It's called dark gray. Okay, it's the fine yarn, real fine yarn. And you're also going to need some gray thread, somewhat along the same color. There's the brand that I'm using on this 6.0. And the feathers, and I don't remember which bird they were off of, but the feathers look like this. You see they got kind of a gray tan tone to them. And we're going to be using some of these off the short side here for the wing cover over the top of this guy. So, got the hook in, got it debarbed, ready to go. So let's have some fun. Now I do a couple of things a little bit different. Going to start off with straightening out the thread. Yeah, it's always so much fun. Going to start off with some extra thread hanging out here because I use that in a specific way. Start your usual wraps. I'll do 5 or 6 wraps. Then I'm going to take this thread, I'm going to run it down here around that knob on the vise, pull it up on the side, do a couple, 3 more wraps over it to bind that one in. I'm going to take this tail sticking out, I'm going to pull that over the top center. And I'm going to wrap on back with that to the bend in the hook. You'll worry about these later. This is one of the last steps is when you get done with this. Now that I got that in there, it's going to be a real simple tying technique. I'm going to take this yarn, I'm going to lay the yarn out on there, get that started. I'm going to leave a layer lay in there. I'm going to go ahead and wrap forward over that because I want to bulk it up just a little bit. Now, keep the thread so you keep it snug, but don't run your fingers up and down this yarn. You want to keep it fuzzy. Just going to wrap that forward almost up to the head. And then I'm going to do a back wrap on it. And I want to park the thread about right there. So I'm going to wrap forward to that thread and then back behind it again and then forward to that point. Now you notice that I'm keeping this spool so the thread's coming out from underneath. I'm backwards wrapping. I'm not wrapping like most folks do. I tend to wrap away from me on the bottom so I can pull it a little bit snugger and I can bind it just a little bit better. Now about halfway in, I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to tie this yarn down. I'm going to cinch that down. The reason I do that is because the way I want the wings to lay on this guy when I get done. So maybe 3 quick wraps just to bind the yarn down a little bit. Snip that off, you're not going to need that anymore. Make sure you're good and snug on your thread. Now I'm going to take some of these. It's only going to take 6 to maybe 8 to do what I want to do with this feather. So I'm going to pull those out so the tips are nice and straight. Cut some of this off. 6, 8, 10 of them. It's not a matter of 8, 10, 12 would be a better count. It's not really critical, just enough. But you want to lay these out so they're almost back to the bend in the hook. Kind of pinch it together a little bit. About right there. I'm going to lay that down, I'm going to pull the thread up, and I'm going to get a good solid bind on these pieces of wing feather. Cut off my excess. Okay, you see how that wing is pointing up just a little bit? And now I can do some more wraps, kind of straighten that back out over the back a little bit. Let's do a quick snug loop. And then I'm going to do a double wrap, and the reason I do a double wrap is I don't like to use head cement. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drop that, and I'm going to do 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to take that thread, and with 6/0 thread, you got to be pretty careful. I'm just going to kind of pull on it till it breaks. And that tends to put it in a bind that holds it on, so I don't need the head cement. I'm going to take this, I'm going to lift these threads up now. I'm going to pull those out maybe an inch behind or 3/4 of an inch behind the fly, nip those off, because I don't need that. What I wanted that for was that will now look like a shuck sticking out of the back of that fly. So you can take this now, and I'll set this up higher on the vise so you can see the whole thing, and that's what it looks like. Just a small gray body with a little bit lighter head and a little bit off-color wing. And fishing this in the Owyhee, I used my floating line, would flip it out there. I'm standing center stream, facing downstream, where it goes from faster to slower water, and I'll flip out to my left or my right at a 45-degree angle, let that settle just below the surface, let it do a sweep across, and then just do little short twitches as I recover it. Not exaggerating one bit on one of the flies. I had one good hit one on there, had him on for a second, he got off, I flipped it back out. I missed probably 25 hits in a row in about as many casts. About to go crazy trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. It was cold, it was windy, and I'm going, okay, I'm getting cold, maybe I need to quit. I pulled it up and I took a look at the fly, and the one that got off broke the fly, broke the hook, right about the middle of the bend in the hook, it broke. So I'd been getting all these hits and been missing all these flies. I wasn't missing anything, I didn't have a hook. So pay close attention to it, but that is, I guess I'll call that the October special. Give it a name if you want. I tied it on the Owyhee. I'm going to try it other places. But it's a really simplistic, easy to do fly. It's easy to fish. And what I watched for, every place that I used it, was slurping. They're not rising out of the water. You see them slurping underneath the surface. You never get a chance to see what's hatching. Well, this is about what it was, because they went crazy over this thing. And the fun part about it is by keeping it on a floating line and keeping it just below the surface, you get to watch the swirl at your fly every time one goes to take it. So a lot of fun. Easy tying, like I said, easy fishing. There you go. Have at it. Good luck. And maybe sometime stop by my Facebook page, and if you tied them up and used them, let me know.